Day 2 of the MP-IDSA's Delhi Defence Dialogue continued with two powerful voices shaping India's operational and technological future. First, our Chief of the Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, disciplined, decisive, and mission focused. His address brought the realities of modern conflict into sharp views. A world where hybrid warfare blurs the lines, urban battles tighten the terrain, and multi domain coordination becomes the backbone of victory. It was the clarity of a battlefield veteran, the foresight of a commander, and a firm reminder of the agility India must build to stay dominant. And then came the vision of DRDO chairman, Dr. Samir V. Kamat, the driving force behind India's cutting edge defense innovation. His message highlighted the rise of a new era: AI enabled platforms, quantum secure networks, next generation sensors and unmanned systems, as well as indigenous tech breakthroughs redefining India's edge. He underscored a simple truth: future military power will be engineered in our labs, crafted in our code, and built on India's own scientific momentum. Together, both of their words didn't just shape the sessions, but set its direction. Two perspectives: operational wisdom and scientific innovation, both united with one purpose: to equip India with the strength, speed, and self reliance needed for the battles of tomorrow. Now, let's relive those defining moments from day 2, the address of General Dwivedi, followed by the technological vision of Dr. Samir V. Kamat.
Ambassador Suzanne Chenoy, Dr. Samir Kamat, Secretary DRDO, Air Chief Marshal V. Chaudhary, Lieutenant Subrata Saha, and uniformed colleagues, senior and colleague veterans. I can see Sina here, I can see Mawasa there. Members from the media, and of course, academia and industry who are here today, and ladies and gentlemen. Asking an infantryman to talk about technology, firstly, that is itself a big challenge. And moving ahead, when you have the ex-deputy chief, so-called now CDNS, sitting here and knowing everything, how it propelled over a period of time, and then the czar of technology also been called to share stage with me. So I think there's nothing left for me to speak. So after I got to know that Mr. Samir, Dr. Samir Kamath is also sharing this stage, I had to cut down my script to half, because whatever we speak is basically kind of a conceptualized and initiated by the DRDO. So I will try and remain different from that, because he is the one who is actually the master on technology. But what is important is, as far as the future battlefield is concerned, is the era of jostling and competition. The long peace is declining and comprehensive conflicts are on the rise. Means technology is going galore. Means wherever you want, you can use the technology today. Over 50 ongoing conflicts and more than 100 nations. I used to call it 90, but I was corrected, it's more than 100 now. And Ukraine battlefield, especially, we are watching closely because it is the living lab in terms of the conditions what we are having along our borders. So drones are stalking the armor columns, EW is jamming the radios, precision fires are reaching much beyond 100 kilometers range, info campaigns win wars even before a single shell lands. So if these are the situation we are facing, I'll just give out 3 Ds which are changing the war scenario today. Firstly, the democratization, that is the newest technology coming in, and has already been brought out that the platform alone is not relevant. It has to have number of layers supported by this democratized phenomena, that is AI, quantum, robotics, auto system, DEW, that is direct energy weapons, cyber tools, etc. Especially in the gray zone, these play a very important role. So the platforms may be there for a conventional when you have a contact and kinetic battle. But what happens to the other 3 quadrants? Who fights these battles? So these are the new players who have come in now. Diffuse, geographically independent, but dependent. I'll explain it later. Demography, you have citizen soldiers, you have guardian force, you have merchants who are playing both sides and maybe selling the equipment to both sides to orchestrate the war or facilitate the war. As we look at the Indian context, if I have to look into Indian context, by virtue of we having the 2.5 front challenges or much more than that, we have to still make sure that whatever technology is coming in, it should still form the adjust itself within the 5 generations of warfare what we are having. It means The trench warfare, it will remain true to us. In the trench warfare, you'll still have the robo mule and the GS mule moving together because that's what is the requirement. And starting going to indirect fire, maneuver warfare, hybrid warfare, and going to the latest generation 5 warfare. So these 5 warfares we have to deal with. Decade of transformation has already been given out. That also we are working on the 5 pillars of transformation. And all these 5 pillars, if I can say that, requires technology to kind of upgrade itself. I'm happy to know that Industry 4.0 has moved to Industry 5.0. What was 4.0? 4.0 when the AI, quantum, and all those being talked about. But the 5.0 has realized that the rebalancing is required to bring in the human element. That is, technology is there not to replace human but to support them. What it means, it's a melange of the ecosystem and the technology. Both have to meet. Now, why it is important for us, especially for the Indian Army, because as for the Mask of War book is concerned by Carl Builder, it says the USPs which are there for the Air Force is, of course, the technology, and for the Navy, its platform. But in case of Army, it's always the word over is the human resource. That's why this Industry 5.0 is music to my ears, because we are looking at human centric technology adoption. We look at humans amplified by AI. Therefore, the creativity, the empathy factor, problem solving, turning data into decisions must remain as a kind of a control of the human being. There is another thing called as technology generation 7. The 7.0 is, of course, the new mobiles which are coming of that generation, the computers of that generation, video game consoles, and 7 nanomillion technology for microchip. I think Anurag will be able to correct if I'm wrong. 7 nm stands for that. So what I'm saying, all these combined together, and this is all is on the table for me to kind of integrate, interpret, and thereafter make sure that the Indian Army gets to gain from it. Before moving ahead, I would like to just clarify as to the what is the melange or convergence of the technology and the geography. As far as India is concerned, by virtue of our land borders, the way we are having it, land will remain the currency of victory. And if you take your mind back to the meeting which took place between President Trump and Putin, Alaska, they also discuss about the land only. So, therefore, the technology must give me dividend on land for destruction, occupation, eviction, or any action which is required to be carried out, even in the virtual realm. So, what is the end state we are visualizing? Smart boots on ground, share space with bots. Ears on the net, that is electronic, ELINT, cyber sensor, communication, quantum encryption. So ears on the net with the eagle on the arm, starting from the FPVs to the logistic drones to the UCAV. Moving ahead, mind in the cloud, eyes in the sky. Means we have to make sure that the cloud centric warfare has to take place, but I always talk about cloud centric and network centric has to have a mix, because the battles can get isolated. Battles may have to be fought without the presence of technology. You may get kind of a devoid of the technology. Even in that condition, you should be able to fight the battle. So it has to be a melange between the two. So mind in the cloud, eyes in the sky, because ISR is most important to shorten the kill chain. Decisions at the edge. Again, as you're aware that our Honorable Raksha Mantri just inaugurated at Jaisalmer the edge data server. What it means, the data centric warfare we are taking as forward as possible, and then connecting through the networking, so that we have a more flexibility in carrying out operations, whether it's regional or its complete front. So when we have the decisions at the edge with smart kill chain execution. Now moving ahead, steel with stealth and shield on the wrist. Steel with the stealth, when we talk about basically the signatures which are being given by these larger platforms. That makes them more vulnerable, visible. Therefore, as far as they are concerned, they have to kind of make sure that some kind of a stealth comes in. Shield on the wrist, of course, at this point of time, as we know, that 12 lakh population, if it is there of the Indian Army, everyone, where is he? What is his condition, his biological condition, his location, everything counts. So digital enablers, biosensors to detect injury, all these things are required. Moving ahead, so where are we? That's what is something important to know. As for the legacy systems are concerned, they are here to stay. because you cannot change them so fast. It's like a social change. You have to have a 30-30-30 phenomena. So if that be the case, the oldest legacy system will at least stay for next 5 to 7 years. So what it means that we need to kind of empower it with whatever kitting or modification we can do it. But as for the new platforms are concerned, we have to have patience. The second issue is infrastructure gaps in terms of physical and digital. As we are aware, the network for spectrum has still not seen the day of light completely. It's still a very mature state, but it will take some time. The satellites aspirations which are there with all the three services, that will still take some time to mature. Skill deficit. As far as 2027 is concerned, it is claimed that 2.3 million jobs will be there as far as artificial intelligence related. But the talent will be only half of it, that is 1.2 million talent pool. If that be the case, what it means? That in case the Indian Army needs to outsource its requirement, the cost will be very, very high. Therefore, it is important for us to start today. And from all schools, everywhere, we need experts in AI, even in Indian Army, because we may not be able to outsource because the demand is going to be high and the talent is going to be low. Cultural resistance, of course, this is something which is important for us to understand. Comfort zone is of the last qualification attained, and that is something which will always remain that way. Procurement process, in this year of reforms, this has been a game changer. And as you are aware, the DPM, Defense Procurement Manual, has been released this month only. And the defense acquisition procedure, as you're aware, is moving on the fast pace. By December and we should be able to finalize it, and it should be applicable from the next financial year onwards. This is a very, very encouraging sign. Import dependency, since it's a ratcheting effect and one technology has to counter others, therefore, till the time the R&D base is not enlarged, and R&D base doesn't come in 2 days. If you spend only 100 crores vis-a-vis 1000 crores in pharmaceuticals, that means we need to look into it very deeply, that how are we looking at it. Therefore, critical components will always have to be imported, as I see, for next 4 to 5 years minimum. If that be the case, then import dependency will continue. Cyber and data vulnerability, of course, that's again a restricting effect. What happens that it restricts us to share a lot of space which we could have shared in kind of having a collaborative phenomena. And that is where we are working in silos. It's a challenge for us, but we are trying to open up. As far as the Atmanirbharta is concerned, part of the Jai call given by Prime Minister when he addressed us on 15th of September this year, Jai is basically jointness, A is Atmanirbharta, and I is innovation. And the era has come that we need to have an accelerated innovation phenomena. So we are having IDEX, Make to MSME startups also being given a lot of support system, micro entrepreneurs also being looked at in forward areas. If I can just say that Indian Army as such, if you look at the complete starting from when it came in 2019, approximately 2.1 lakh crore rupees have been committed or invested for R&D and resultant procurement. So this is what is the kind of money which we are putting into it. So it's a major bet, but how it comes, we are not sure. And that's why we have a patience and we are looking at spiral development. So what's the action plan? Firstly, it's a cultural shift which is required. I'll just cover in 5 P's. The first one, of course, the procedures. That is, we called as doctrines, TTPs, which we all are well aware. I'll not cover much on this because this is known to all. I'll come straightway to process. As the process is concerned, we have in last 1 year now enabled 16 technology clusters where we have the principal staff officer and director generals nominated with their phone numbers, email, everything given out. So anywhere in the system wants any kind of idea, we have the Army Design Bureau, his numbers are also there and our numbers are there. We straightway connect to that Lieutenant General and straightway we can take that discussion forward. Of course, Army Design Bureau, ATB is also known. R&D, as I've spoken, for the new technology, the emergency procurement which has been given for year 2025 by Raksha Mantri after our Ops Sindhu 1.0, 70% of the capital procurement is going for the new age technology. As for the patents are concerned, Indian Army is woken up late. and about 100 plus patents have now been applied, and one fourth have already been received. And I think there is a requirement for us to move this patent process in a much faster manner. Otherwise, there are so many people who will be able to take on this race, and that is where we need to look into. As for the people is concerned, since I told you that army is the human centric, this is something which is a major KRA for me. And for last 3 years, we have been giving a call for the techno commanders and not the only tactical commanders. And Subrata Saha had also come and addressed at that point of time. And what he said, decade of transformation may for the years 2024 and 25, we have the era of technology absorption. So it is towards that. And what we have done now, that we have a number of MOUs with the IITs in terms of studies, development, research and development, but the manpower was less. So even the MTech courses from 65 now we have made 95 this year, so that we have adequate manpower going back to the IITs and acting as a kind of a catalyst as well as a via media or a liaison between the two to understand the army's requirement and interpreting into the technical manner. Interns, for the first time, Honorable Raksha Mantri has sanctioned about 75 interns we will be able to hire, and paid internship, so that we get to gain from them and they get to gain from us. That is what we are looking at. And of outsourcing that we are working out in a big way. The government and semi-government agencies are coming up, and they are empowering the Indian Army like BISAG, MITI, and INOP Sindhu 1.0 also. A lot of, if I can say that, MITI helped us in a big way by moving those resources in terms of GPUs, etc., which were required to carry out the predictive analysis. As for the humanware is concerned, the NDA entry is being accordingly modified. Yesterday only I had a presentation. We're looking at kind of giving them the BTech degree which is required, not for all, but for those who are required. The technical entry, which is TS entry, that we are now working out well. And AKEC, that is Army Education Corps, has been completely now revamped. And we are now getting direct AI specialists and cyber specialists who are coming. So we are looking at this, that is entry point, and we are also going back to the government or proposing that for 4 to 6 years we should be able to hire the experts as a uniform personnel, and thereafter after the deputation they go back. As of today, Indian Army is giving deputation to a large organizations but not accepting deputation. I think this is the high time that we must look at the other way around also. Peter Drucker had said the best way to predict future is to create it. So for last 1 year, all the war games what we had named it multi-domain operations for the front and with the command side. And since it has to be the future, so we said, okay, 2 years hence. So it was 25, then it is year 27, what are we going to have? So once you have the 2 years future known to you, what happens, it becomes easier for you to absorb that kind of a technology. And as already been brought out, that is okay if the planning is concerned, but this time we have gone a step ahead. We have created the structures so that the market gets to know that what is the kind of a technological requirement. The structures are there. He's already named, like we have Bhairav, we have Shaktiman, we have Ashni, we have uh, Divyastra, Rudra is already there, and we are having many more in the kind of offing. So once these structures are there, the clarity to the market is very clear to the industry and the technology muggles that what is the requirement. And these numbers are also high. We are giving out the numbers also. Like Bhairav, we are saying, let's say if it's 25, we are saying Divyastra, let's say it's 34, or Shaktiman, we are saying 26. So once the number is known, and we have kept in such a manner that the exact equipping profile we will tell you after 9 months, depending on what you can offer me. This is how we are looking at absorption of new technology. When I took over, we also created a futures and technology cell, and this is the cell which has been responsible for all this development. And encouraged with this, we are also looking at futures command, and our track command is working towards that. And once we have futures command, all these things will be able to combine together. So as already been brought out, that how are we moving ahead in this field is basically year 26-27, we are declaring as the year of networking and data centricity. We are aligning ourselves with the national missions. The India AI mission we already aligned. We are associated with the space mission. We are associated with the quantum mission, 6G. So everywhere now we are taking a lead and associating ourselves. Somewhere we are the pivotal partners. Somewhere we have the Center of Excellence at MCT, that Military College of Telecommunication Engineering at Mao. So that is how we are moving ahead. And to move ahead in phase one, three RDC regional development centers with 128 GPU each, costing 150 crore each, is already been planned and the money has been allocated. So this is how we are looking at where the AI absorption is concerned. And probably if everything goes well, we'll be launching digitization 3.0. Honorable Raksha Mantri will be launching it this month or the next month. I'll now just cover five critical issues which I look at in terms of AI, data, autonomous system, etc. So the first one is digital in technology. ACOM, AI as a system. This is something which we are launching, which is in-house chatbot Jigyasa and about 15 more items which are part of it. It's a small software which are going to empower us. So this is what we are looking at. Agentic AI in concert with IIT Madras that we are working out. AI in the box. We already carried out the trials and with the mobile formations, AI the box in the box will give us the advantage because we have mobile formations so moving ahead. This side of the border, across the border. Therefore, they won't have that kind of a connectivity every point of time. So AI in the box is something which we are looking at. We have tried out, it's been very successful. In fusion system with IIT Delhi is working out. Open source analysis and predictive analysis. In Sindoor 1.0, it helped us. A lot of volunteers came forward inside the country, diaspora, they came forward, they helped us. And uh, if I can say that we could, uh, means we were very much empowered as far as Sindoor 1.0 is concerned. We have learned our lessons. Therefore, whether it's Sindoor 2.0 or any other battle thereafter, we are looking at in a big way how to harness this initiative. Moving ahead, the second one is autonomous and robotic system and the efficiency enhancers. So if they take on the efficiency enhancers, we are going for a platform change. For example, we have ACCCS, a Shakti software which allows us to control more guns. So what we are going ahead with, we are having a battery with 8 guns instead of 6. We are going with a regiment of 24 guns. So once we change this platform, what happens? We have now the manpower, which is looking at the lot ammunition, looking at the UCAVs, UAVs, PSDA, you name a thing which is required, and even US and counter US system. So we have this manpower, which is now associated with the same kind of a element to fight together. As far as smart munition and weapons are concerned, precision strike is something which we are looking at. And this is again an efficiency enhancer. We are working in-house and in collaboration. Moving ahead, drones. What more important for us at this point of time is when we are moving ahead, the number of drones which are there is something phenomenal. At let's say a frontage of 500, we have approximately 10,000 drone equivalent. If that be the number, I think the air defense itself has to have a new definition. Therefore, we are examining closely the air littoral. Air littoral is something where the drones are coming to you. You will have to kind of have your own US and counter US equipment to kind of counter it because there will be no time to control at the highest level what we are looking at. So we are working on it. We do not have immediate answers, but we should be able to get it after some time. We also stopped the Gokoization of the army-based workshops, which was going ahead because we realized that if you want to carry out the research and development, you have to start at home first. You can't depend on the market completely. So we are initiating the army-based workshops. They've helped us in a big way in terms of manufacturing of drones also, and even borrowing the technology from the DRDO. DRDO is now transferring the technology to the market, but we also took those technology, I think it's cryogenic cooler, if I remember correctly, and now we are manufacturing it. So we are empowering our own outfits, kind of to develop that. Even SDD, Simulator Design Division, which is there, we were about to close it, but now we are again opening it because we realize that the thinking cap which is required has to be there. The market has to be given clear-cut guidelines. Okay, this is what is our requirement. So these are the agencies which will be able to give out that. As far as drones are concerned, one thing I would like to just bring out that what we realized that since the market was phenomenal, the drones which were coming up, they were just coming up in do-it-yourself kind of a drones with a padded cost. So what we have done, you must be aware that now from the div headquarter onwards, everywhere we are manufacturing these drones. Why? So that the drones which are being given to us have a quality. We are also going in for the frequency hopping EW suit also. So that the market understands that these basic drones is something anyone can make it. What is important is the high-end drones which are required. And that is what is the aspiration expectations from the market which is there. Agentic AI or man-unmanned team, we are looking at adaptive, multi-step and anticipate and executive actions by the agentic AI, that is the man-unmanned team, especially for the armor, what we are looking at. The 45 tanks, will it make it to much more, or within the 45 we'll have the less manpower? So these are things we are looking at. Logistic drones and robo-mules I've already talked about. Advanced robotic lab, 1.4 crore has already been allocated. And at this 15th December, when we have at home, and some of you would be invited to attend that, probably we'll be having the Indian Army robo displayed there. So as of now, man in the loop for the correct application and ethical decision making is important. Therefore, mission SWAT, which we have started, that is synergized weapons, automated augmenting tactics, we are making sure that the man in loop remains there. And that is what we are propagating as of now. When I talked about the three P's, I had stopped at the third P, that is people. The fourth one is partnership. So we have the AI incubation cell, which is already working in Bell, but we have the partners from Bombay and other places also, including uh, IISS, if I remember correctly, from Bangalore. And Agni Shodh I inaugurated in INP, that is Madras, IIT Madras, it was inaugurated. That is a research center. Regional training nodes have come up in a big way, about 3 to 4, and we are going to increase that. And MOUs already talked about. As for the platforms are concerned, like I told you, today we are looking at modification of the that is of the platform by improving the kitting. Next, we are looking at new platforms in terms of FRCV, FICV, the light tanks. After that, we'll be looking at a network application that the multi-domain organizations. So these platforms are okay, but this platform alone will not be able to work. The third issue is the connectivity and communication. As you're aware, NFS have already told you, OFC is something laid to a great extent. And since we have the officer from ITBP, he would be aware that we have extended this facility also to the CAPFs, so that after all, we have to fight the battle together. So might as well get connected at the early stage. Sambhav, you're aware how it was used in Sindoor 1.0. Now we are going for the phase 2, which will be a much more advanced version. Dedicated satellites has already been launched recently. Quantum infrastructure and 5G India version. The center of excellence is at MCT Mau. And secure link, as you're aware, for 500 kilometers was demonstrated with private industry, which was also covered by the Minister of Science and Tech recently. Telemedicine is a big game changer, especially in the Siachen Glacier and other places where the doctors can't reach. But that is something which is required. Fourth one is the advanced manufacturing and material technology. 3D printing, like I told you, as the drones are concerned and so many other resources are concerned. If you have to remain import dependent, then you have to look for the answers. During the time of Vijay, that is Kargil also, as you are aware, that we did lot of jugaad, which I have spoken earlier also. In times of upgrading our tanks, we did not have time to send them to Awadhi. So therefore, there was a requirement from that day. I felt that we need a large number of spares which can be produced by us. So we have done that. Of course, now we are looking at 3D of the composite material also. We are working towards that. Besides this, even infrastructure development, whether it's a bunker or it's the accommodation or building or a barrack, that is also being now done through 3D by the Indian Army. Last one is biological and human enhancement technology, biotech, biosuits, high altitude areas, survival techniques we are looking at. Customized rations is being worked out. Research and development is going on towards that. Millets also, we have carried out a detailed study that how it will be required. Accelerated acclimatization. We have done something, but a lot of kind of studies yet to be carried out. But for operational reasons or operational challenges, we will be executing them in case there is a requirement. Variable technology and exoskeleton, you're well aware. As for the human enhancement is concerned in terms of augmented and virtual technology, I say that with IIT Hyderabad recently signed in August 25, one of the MOUs, and simulators for the AR, we have 16 and we are looking approximately 1500 as the target. So in this complete gamut, I'll just give out the players who have an important role to play. Firstly, the troika, which I keep talking about, of course, the industry, academia, and the military. And when I say academia, I include the think tanks in any case. The second rhombus which is there is basically the R&D, which is the government R&D. We have the Secretary DRDO here, the finances and policy makers. So the military as such become the fulcrum of connecting these two triangles or the rhombus. So if that be the case, we will continue to play the role and we are open to any kind of suggestions. We are approachable at all fields and whenever anything required, you may contact any of us to take this journey forward because we have to travel together. It's a collaborative word and no single agency can fight the battle alone. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Chief, for a very candid and very comprehensive understanding that you've given to all of us on the way we are headed. And needless to re-emphasize what you said, that it is moving so so collaboratively forward. Now it's our turn to turn towards Secretary Defense R&D and Chairman DRDO, Dr. Samir Kamat. As you are all aware, in his time, I think DRDO has made some phenomenal success, and as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and we have seen it during Sindoor. The game changers were Akash, game changer was BrahMos. We all know it, and both clearly are DRDO's, ultimate products, if you will, as we speak today to the country. Apart from that, not much spoken about are DRDO's achievements in terms of the silicon carbide wafers, gallium nitride transistors, and a whole range. And in fact, the new generation strategy, which Dr. Kamath has evolved and has spoken about at a number of places on where he sees DRDO evolving into the next generation, involving all of AI, ML, directed energy weapons, quantum, in a way mirroring what the army chief just said, I think shows the common understanding and common purpose with which our leadership is working. So with that, I would request Dr. Kamat to speak to us on enhancing collaboration, co-development, and co-production. Not quite clearly your charter, but nonetheless your thoughts. Thank you, Dr. Kamat.
General Dwivedi, General Saha, Ambassador Chinoy, Air Chief Marshal Chaudhry, and ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to all of you, and I'm indeed honored and thankful to Ambassador Chinoy for giving me this opportunity. I think General Dwivedi has made my job easier, and I'll keep my speech short so that we have more time for Q&A. As you are aware, gentlemen, we live in interesting times. We have a geopolitical churn going on. We are moving from a unipolar world to a multipolar world where India is going to be one of the strong poles. We are also in an era where several disruptive technologies have emerged, which are having a disproportionate effect on military capabilities. We are also in an era where technological changes are so rapid that if you don't keep pace, you're going to be outdated by the time you decide and develop those technologies which are required. So if we have to meet these emerging challenges, we have to look at different models or a model which is different than what we were employing. If you look at what has been happening in the country, we had a fairly siloized system where we had DRDO doing R&D, our industry doing mostly production, academia doing their own R&D, whether that was relevant to our needs or not. And more or less the outcome till recent years was we were a major importer of weapon systems. 60 to 70% of our weapon systems, sensors, platforms used to be imported. This is changing, And I'm glad to say that last year, I think more than 90% of all orders that were placed were for indigenous systems. If we have to win the battles of the future, we have to transition to indigenous systems and indigenous capabilities. Because if your dependence is there on foreign systems, you will not get the desired support during a conflict. And if you look at the example of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, what works today does not work in 15, 20 days. That's the kind of rapid changes which are happening both in offensive and defensive systems. So you need inherent capabilities if you have to address the challenges of future battlefields. So the first thing we need to do, if you look at today our R&D budget, we spend about 5.5% of our defense budget on defense R&D. If you look at countries such as China, US, they spend between 10 to 15% of their defense budget on R&D. So the first change which we need to do if we have to be competitive going ahead is to increase our defense R&D budget. And I'm glad to inform all of you that Honorable Raksha Mantri ji has promised us that over the next 5 years, we will move from 5% to 10%. But if you see the way technologies are evolving, it is not going to be enough just to do defense R&D. As a nation, we have to improve our R&D capabilities and spending, because in a lot of these technologies, the civilian sector actually is ahead of defense. If you look at AI, communication, semiconductors, in all these critical technologies, the civilian sector is far ahead of the military sector. So we have to increase the spending on civilian R&D too. Today, as a nation, we spend 0.67% of our GDP on R&D. Countries like China, US spend 2.5% of their GDP, and they have a bigger GDP than us. Countries such as South Korea, Israel spend more than 4% of their GDP on R&D. So that is another area where we have to seriously look at if we have to compete in the future. And there I request, if there are anybody here from the private sector, the private sector has to look at increasing their R&D spend. Today, of this 0.67% that we spend, 70% of that is spent by the government. The private sector spends only 30% on this overall 0.67%. So that has to increase significantly. It has happened to some extent in the pharmaceutical sector, but it has to happen in all the sectors if the country has to remain competitive going ahead. So that's the second thing which we need to do. The third thing which we need to do, as I said earlier, we have to break the silos. We have compartmentalized ourselves too much. We have to see how we can work seamlessly across organizations. We have to see how we can best utilize all the resources that are available in the country for our needs. This siloization results in far less optimal use of the resources that we have. Of course, there are organizational barriers, there are issues of IP, there are issues which we have to overcome when we need to do this. But I think we have no choice. We have to find mechanisms so that this siloization is broken down. And I think it has started happening, and I'm sanguine that over the next few years, this will increase dramatically. So from these broad points, let me now tell you what we are doing in DRDO. So in DRDO, we are aware of these challenges, and this year being the year of reforms in the MOD, we have tried to implement some of the reforms so that the issues that I mentioned are overcome. So the first thing that we have done is that any system development we do, which is on mission mode basis, that is based on a AON from any of the services, we have now decided that we will have two industry partners, which we call them as development cum production partners. We had started this process of DCPP in 2018, 2019. We were mostly having one partner. But now, in the interest of the technology absorption increasing, as well as the services having a choice between two partners so that the cost also is kept in control, we have now decided that for all our system development projects, we'll have two DCPPs. And these two DCPPs are chosen purely on a competitive basis, and we don't distinguish between the private sector and the public sector. Everyone has the equal opportunity, and it's only on the commercial basis that we do selection. Of course, once the technical criteria are satisfied by the industries. So by this, we hope that this technology transfer process, which used to take time, because once the development process is over, then we used to handhold industry for the TOT, which would then result in delay in induction, would be avoided. Because if the industry works with us right from the start of the project, they would absorb the design better, they would absorb the technology better, and then any upgrades that would be required, any incremental improvements in the system that would be required, would be handled by the industry themselves. This would free up DRDO scientists who are otherwise locked in to support that system over the entire life cycle of the product, free to look at newer technologies. So this is the first thing that we have ensured. We have also opened up all our IP to private sector and public sector. So whoever wants to take our IP can take it, build upon it, and deliver newer products. So we have freed that up. Again, we hope this way the industry will also be energized to take up further development on existing IP. We have also now, we had a mechanism called Technology Development Fund, which was being used to fund R&D in industry. This was mostly initially restricted in its first few years to basically indigenizing components, subsystems in already inducted systems of the services. But we have now broadened it, and it can be used to develop cutting-edge technologies. We had a committee under the leadership of Dr. Saraswat and Dr. Kakodkar, and they have given us a mechanism by which we can fund cutting-edge R&D in industry. One of the challenges of funding cutting-edge R&D in industry was who will be accountable for the failure. Unlike DARPA in the US, which has a mandate from their Senate and Congress, where if failures occur also, They don't have to answer to the Senate why they have caused loss to the taxpayer. In fact, if you look at only 10 to 15% of DARPA projects succeed, because they really look at moonshots when it comes to technologies. We don't have such a mechanism in India. DRDO, if our projects fail, we have to answer to CAG. We have to answer to Parliament why loss has been caused to the government. But R&D has to be looked at as an investment, not as an expenditure. Because even if a project fails and you fail fast, the lessons that you learn from that R&D can be used in several other places. So this mechanism, hopefully, we are now looking at also a separate chapter for R&D in our GFR. Secretary DST has been tasked to come up with such a chapter, and I hope this will happen soon. This will then help us in funding cutting-edge R&D in startups, MSMEs, even large industries, which will then speed up our innovation. Because if you look at innovation, the larger the organization gets, innovation becomes slower. Because necessarily bureaucracy comes in, because if you have to run a large organization, you have to have structures. So innovation is best done in startups, MSMEs, which are very flexible. It is driven only by passion, not by structures meant to control efficiency, control expenditure, which necessarily is true in all large organizations, whether in the government or in the private sector. So this needs to happen, and I'm sure in the next couple of years, this change will also happen in the country. So this is with respect to industry, how to get industry to do R&D, how to get our startups and MSMEs to do innovation, quick innovation, that is converting existing technology for different use. But we also have to make sure that our academia starts contributing to what is necessary for the nation. For this, we have started 15 centers of excellence in prominent academic institutions. And for each of these institutions, we have defined domain areas. And this is a hub and spoke model. So just because a center of excellence is in one institution and the domain area for that is defined, doesn't mean that they can work only on those domain areas. And it also doesn't exclude other academic institutions for proposing projects in those domain areas. So it's a hub and spoke model. And we hope that this will promote a R&D ecosystem which the Caltechs and the MITs and the Stanfords created in the US. So this is, and earlier our academic funding also used to be very limited. We used to fund 50 lakhs, 1 crore projects. It's not that we were not funding projects in academia earlier. But we are now looking at much larger projects. We have now given projects worth even 50 crores, 70 crores to academia to develop critical technologies. And in these centers of excellence, we are calling them DRDO Industry Academia Centers of Excellence. So the model we are looking at in these centers of excellence is that the DRDO labs, the industry and the academia can work together. At lower TRLs, mainly the work will be done by academia. As we move up the TRL chain, then the lab and the academia will work closely. And then subsequently, once we reach TRL 5, 6, the industry will play a bigger role. So we expect this will speed up the technology development, which is the need of the hour. So these are some of the steps that we have taken. We have taken a lot of other steps to improve efficiency within DRDO labs. We have started 5 young scientist labs where even the director is below the age of 35. We hope that these young scientist labs will become the equivalent of startups within the DRDO ecosystem. All these young scientist labs have been given these disruptive technology areas like AI, quantum technologies, smart materials. We are opening a new one on manned-unmanned teaming technologies. So these are some of the steps that we are taking to keep pace with the emerging scenario. But what is finally needed is a change in mindset. All these steps are essential, but not sufficient. Finally, we need a change in the mindset in the country. We need a change in the mindset that everything you do has to succeed. It will never happen that everything you do will succeed. We have to have a mindset that if it doesn't succeed, we close it down and not consider it as a loss to the government or loss to the taxpayers. We have to have a change in the mindset that indigenous systems will not compete, and Operation Sindoor has been a good example where it has been shown that indigenous systems also do well in wars. We have to also move, because the theme of my talk was supposed to be on co-development, co-production. We have to look at international collaborations also. Because a lot of times, if you want to speed up development, you have to look at partnerships. And BrahMos is a good example where we had a partnership with Russia. MRSAM is an example where we had a partnership with Israel. These are successful systems. So we have to look at models where we have to work with like-minded countries to do faster co-development. We also have to look at co-R&D, and we have recently started a lot of MOUs, or we have inked a lot of MOUs with countries such as UK, France. We already have a strong R&D collaboration with Russia, with the US, but we have now increasing the number of countries where we can do co-R&D, especially in these disruptive technologies. Co-production is out of the ambit of DRDO, but I think co-production also has to be looked at if we have to faster induct these systems into our services. So I think my time is up. It's 10:30 and I'm free for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamat, for a very good, I think, update on the changes that the DRDO is bringing about. And you did re-emphasize, this business of fail fast, learn from it. So actually, fail is also being used sometimes as an acronym for first attempt in learning. So it might work, if you look at it from that point of view. And so to initiate this Q&A now, if I may initiate it with a question for the Chief and the Chairman DRDO while the audience gets ready with their questions. The Chief had highlighted that one of the points now which is being emphasized is Jai Hind, Jai, standing for jointness, Atmanirbharta, and innovation. And I think we need to step back for a while and look at jointness. Less than 2 months back, we had a similar tri-services technology event in Mau where we saw some divergence in the jointness bit. I thought it may be a good idea to get the Army Chief's view, because we did not have the Army Chief's view there on jointness. So over to you, sir.
As far as the J acronym is concerned, jointness, when Prime Minister spoke to us, it was jointness in all fields. It means jointness in terms of having our operational compatibility and synergization with the CAPFs also. With the so many other government agencies which are there, like I gave you the example of Maiti, I gave you the example of other agencies. Today, for example, in border area, when we are looking at so many clearances coming to us from the Green Tribunal, it's coming because we are collaborating with those kind of agencies. Now, the question specific is basically with respect to joint tests in terms of theaterization. As far as land warfare is concerned, what we have to understand that it is not only the three services which have to kind of join hands together. In terms of land warfare, it is the CAPF, it is all the int agencies and agencies like NTRO, ISROs, all the logistic agencies in terms of civil aviation, railways, all the locals who are there in terms of police, civil defense, NCC, the rare area security, CRPF. So if you name a thing, even to that extent, and even the canal management system which is there, that is also required to be kind of a join hands together. So this is the kind of a jointness we are looking at. So what is the future? Is the convergence going to be there? The answer is yes. As far as the time, the structure, that is something which is always remains a kind of a point of discussion. And since that is in the confidential domain, I can't talk about it, but I assure you convergence will take place today or tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Now, my question to Chairman DRDO very quickly. You know, whatever, like you also mentioned in passing, whatever is happening in the defense R&D domain, it has to happen in the broader context of what we understand, and the Chief referred to it, of military-civil integration. So if it has to happen in that context, when we talk about military-civil integration, there is a component of spin-off, where the defense technologies are being commercialized to good use, individually or collected, or there is a spin-on where the industry or the academia and others get attracted to come towards defense. A lot of effort to get the spin-on part. But the spin-off, while there is a little bit of spin-off happening, it is not to that extent. So I won't say that they can ever be equal, but there has to be an equation to make it sustainable. So your thoughts, please.
Hello. I fully agree with you. It's not that spin-offs are not happening, they are happening. And one example I would like to give is the water mist system, which DRDO had developed for taking care of fires in a submarine. That same system was modified to suit our public transportation buses. If you remember, there was a time when a lot of buses were catching fire. So the same water mist system was converted to fit into a bus to prevent fires. This is just one example. Now the problem that we have is DRDO, we have say 7,000 scientists. They don't have the bandwidth to look at the civilian applications of a military technology. This is where our companies have to take the lead. Once the technology is available to them, they have to see where all it can be used. The bandwidth in DRDO is not sufficient for the scientists to address the military needs as well as the civilian needs. Because the main mandate of DRDO is to work for civil military technologies. So my hope is that the industry, as it matures and invests in R&D, this spin-off will also increase. But it has to happen because the economic benefits of all the expenditure that you have done for your military has to be in your rest of your economy too.
Thank you very much. I think, okay. So it's the house is open, number of hands going up. We have to start with the DG, please. But we'll take a bundle of questions and then
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions for each of the two eminent speakers. The first is to Dr. Kamat. You seem to suggest in your presentation that DCPP 2.0, where you will bring in more than one partner, you're not going to distinguish between the public and the private sector. But there is a certain amount of criticism from the private sector that in any case, when DRDO says you don't make a distinction, the odds are already stacked against them, because the public sector comes in with a great deal more of subsidy, government backing. They don't have to make the same kind of outlays and expenditures on developing certain types of technologies or R&D. So how would you deal with that argument? My second question, I'll address it straight away to General Dwivedi. Uh, General, you spoke of the 5 types of warfare. They're expected to continue. It seems to suggest that that spectrum still includes some of the traditional war fighting that we have done in the past, the world has seen in the past, and that includes the HR part, ground level terrain being very important. So how do you reconcile the induction of new age technologies with the apparent decision to phase out some very important things like GS mules or mule artillery, your breeding stations at Hisar and Saharanpur have, I'm told, been greatly shrunk. The training depot at Hempur will also see some withering away on the vine, so to speak. Where will you then in the future get the Poitus and the Hanoverians and the Norikers, and once lost, that particular DNA will not be available to you? Do you think your robo, mules in the trench will perform the same way as a good GS or MA mule would doing supplies for, say, 28 div with a broad frontage and hundreds and thousands of, tons of equipment having to be moved for provisioning?
What we are looking at, mule is a mule. It has to provide a service, whether it's a robo mule or a GS mule. And I remember General posted here also. He sent me a beautiful link where he talked about a photo where a GS mule is carrying the ammunition, because the ATVs and RTVs, you have to carry 2, 3 people and they become a lucrative target vis-a-vis a GS mule. So at times when the technology is having a ratcheting effect, going back to the Stone Age is also nothing wrong in it. And I remember once upon a time that people said if you have networking and you or somebody is able to counter. So somebody was feeling happy we don't have network system, so that's why we are better off. So what it means, and even I must say that during this Triple C address, the Prime Minister also told us that you all should be able to work in spite of, or if I can say that, even in absence of technological enablers. So is the GS mule going to stay? It's a triangle which I am looking at as of today. The triangle comprises of the mule, comprises of the modern vehicles, and the terrain, which is kind of a acceptable to the modern mule, what we are talking about, the robo mule or the ATVs. Today, this triangle, if you look into it, the infrastructure development is taking its time. And whenever you want the kind of a modern means to reach there, those modern means have to be sustained in those kind of a terrains. So till then, there will be an issue, and these mules are going to stay here. The second issue, what we have to understand, in lot many places, our defenses are in depth. So as the infrastructure goes up, what happens? These defenses also creep up. When they creep up, the initially it is a GS mule which goes, and the mechanical means go at the later stage. So in the near future, what we are looking at till 2037, these mules will remain, the number will go down. Therefore, based on the number, the establishments will have its pluses and minuses, and if I can say that, optimization will take place. However, keeping in view that we need good horses and good mules for the reasons other also, we are investing in that. We are even importing the kind of a cement to make sure that the class of mules which we are going to have in future will be much better off. Thank you.
Ambassador Chinoy, our data does not suggest what you are saying. If you look at our data in the last 3 years, more private sector companies are our DCPP partners than public sector. It was the case in the first 2-3 years of the DCPP, but now the data has changed completely. And we have also proposed to the MOD, because this finally needs the approval of Honorable Raksha Mantri, that in the 2 DCPPs, we can have 1 PSU, 1 private sector. If that approval is given by Honorable Raksha Mantri, we will adopt that model. But today also, even under these rules, we are getting more private sector than public sector.
Okay, we'll now open it to the House. If you can just keep your question, no requirement of any background. Yes, please.
Kanant. I was heading the Aerospace System Division in MOD till recently, and I'm presently doing international business management before I had my uniform. My question is to Dr. Kamat. There was a talk of the Defense Technology Council being, put up under the Honorable Prime Minister. So is this seeing the light of the day? And secondly, in your talk, you had talked of 15 centers of excellence. And the various seminars, I have seen the figures being flashed up to say 3,600 crores being spent on it. As a military man, I was taught as a young officer that, we should have concentration of resources. So don't you think that as for deep tech in India is concerned, we are frittering away resources. We need to go in a very focused manner. I know the funds are going to various IITs across the board since I've been to a lot of them. So don't you think that we need to just be very focused on? Thank you.
Next, please. Yeah, Anurag.
Morning, sir. I'm Anurag Avasthi. My questions to Dr. Kamat. 2 questions, very clear, sir. One is there's a common perception of the cost overruns in the DRDO. What are you doing about it as part of the DRDO reforms? That's one. The second part is you spoke about the TDA for the Technology Development Fund, which looks at around 50 crores, 90% and 10% and all of that, sir. Can we look at this fund augmenting the semiconductor design space as an addition to the DLI, sir, by the Government of India? If yes, and if possible, then how, sir? That's all, sir.
Next, the gentleman next to the camera, please. Okay, question understood. Next, please. Yes, please.
Sir, my question is to the chief. Sir, you just spoke about the jointness vision. So jointness means the joint execution of the task at the borders collectively. Sir, as per the need of the hour, Indian Army is enhancing its capabilities in all the domains. Sir, how do you assess today the capabilities of the CAPFs? And if there are certain gaps, how do we prepare to plug them in? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more. Yeah, Narang. Sorry, just a minute. We'll do some gender balancing. Yeah, that hand over there. Yes, please.
Mritika from Counter Trade and Offset. My question is that how do the Army and DRDO aim to leverage the Defense Procurement Manual 2025 in order to further the co-development and co-production, especially with regards to projects involving a transfer of technology? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have questions from 5, and I would request Chairman DRDO, because most of them are actually to you, to take them on.
Yes.
If you wish, I can keep reminding you what they are.
So let me start with the Defense Technology Council. I think somebody asked whether it is on or off. So it's still pending with the PMO. So final decision will be taken by the PMO. So I can't say yes or no because the final decision is with the PMO. Then you asked a question about cost over. Huh?
Cost overrun.
No,
Are there any tangible outcomes of 3,600 crores which have been spent?
So your figure of 3,600 crore is wrong. 500 crores a year with for all these DIA COEs. And we are coordinating with ANRF, DST, CSIR to ensure that same type of projects are not given. So it is not frittered away, I would say. it is being effectively used. With respect to DRDO projects cost overrun, if we look, we had just recently done a study of all our projects. Cost overruns are not really a problem. Hardly 10% of our projects have a cost overrun, and that too only 10% cost overrun. Our main challenge is the time overrun, not the cost overrun. So we got this examined by external experts as well as an internal committee, and they have given a set of recommendations on how to avoid them in the future projects. So we have implemented that in our processes, and hopefully this will result in our projects getting completed on time. So our challenge is in the time overrun rather than the cost overrun.
And the second part was, that fund which you have allocated for under one of the heads, can it be combined with the semiconductor?
So, see, our fund is not restricted to any given area. If we find the project suitable, we fund it. So it can be in semiconductors, it can be in artificial intelligence, it can be in quantum. But we coordinate with the national missions which are being launched. So we have a close coordination so that already a project is funded from those missions, then we don't fund it.
Final question from the lady there, and how is the DAP addressing?
DPM, she said. DPM is not relevant. DPM is for procurement. We have a separate procedure in DRDO for funding. So DPM is not relevant to DRDO. We have our own mechanism in DRDO.
Okay, thank you. So if we can now turn to the chief for the balance two questions, please.
As far as the CAPF is concerned, CAPF has got a task of the border management, which also includes the border guarding. As for the military is concerned, it is the task of the border protection as and when required. So what we need to understand that the requirements are different in terms of training, equipping. But where we can, I think, converge together in terms of when we have the operational situation of the conventional warfare, even heightened gray zone. In these two situations, what is we are looking at in phase one, as of now, which we already worked, is basically how we can integrate the logistics. So step one is we are looking at the ammunition, because the ammunition, instead of drawing it from CAD Pulgaon, if it can be drawn from the nearest ammunition depot, and only the paper transaction can take place. We already offered this to the Home Secretary, and we are looking forward. That is already gone. Medical, we're already looking at it. Small arms ammunition, as far as even the repairs of the small arms. This is even the big, whatever equipment is there, we are ready to even repair that. That offer has already been given. As we talk, the MA2 NSA is, I think, today meeting the Home Secretary along with the Army officers to discuss on the drone commonalities, because we have got classified 5 kinds of drones which we are looking at. And those 5 kinds of drones, what we are looking at, even the MAJ should look into. We are looking at a range, what they should have and what qualities they should have, so that there is a kind of a clear-cut degree of variation in operational space also for the two. As for the phase 3 is concerned, what we'll be looking at basically the equipment compatibility. So any equipment which is being bought hereafter will have the commonality. So the GSQR what we have is already being regularly shared with all the DGs in any case, but will also be shared with now the, if I can say that the Home Secretary and the associated office there also. So overall, what we are having, that all the training which is there, we are doing it together. All the war games is there, and we have General Marva sitting here from 2 day when he was there. So that time we started, the ITBP used to attend all the war games which Army was conducting. So the operational commonality, the training commonality, the logistics commonality, the procurement commonality, everywhere we can do that. The thing is, the people keep changing. So the 70% of the work will be done if you know each other well, if you trust each other well. So if we don't look at turf protection, we'll be able to move much faster. The second issue is what has been talked about is the modernization of Indian Army and global power. I remember the External Affairs Minister when he, in the month of October last year, addressed all the army commanders. He said that the army needs to work more on the military diplomacy. And this is something which is the takeoff for the global power, if I can say that, because army has lot to give. If you have a huge demand of the military equipment, I can assure you if it's part of the Atmanirbharta, you will have a huge demand outside also, because the Indian army standards are so high, then even the Swiss knife couldn't pass once upon a time. I remember that.
I will vouch for that.
So once we give this stamp of approval, all the countries the world over say, okay, we are ready to take it. So export promotion is something we can play an important role. And this is what the kind of one of the task has already been given to our defense advisors. The equipment, of course, we have talked about it. Human resource, the training, the best of establishments what we have here. And scoping delegations are coming from all the countries to visit us and thereafter uh, say, okay, we want so many vacancies. And we have through ITEC also, we have the self-financing facilities also. And to the extent that we have gone, I've visited one of the countries and they've asked few requirements. I said, we will make the tailor-made course for it. Because Indian Army today has the flexibility to kind of make those kind of courses and give it, including exposure in our extreme terrains. India is the only country we have maritime, we have deserts, we have super high altitude, we have jungle terrain, mountain, name a terrain, we have it. So that way, all countries are wanting to come and kind of learn from us, and we in turn also will learn. It's not that we don't learn. We both countries learn with each other. Joint operations in United Nations, as you see, that we are always within the first five as far as the troop contributing countries are concerned. This time, 32 countries chiefs had come. It was a surprise to us also. We never expected this kind of a prompt response. It's because the kind of impressions Indian troops have left the world over. So that is again, we are looking at soft power. We don't have to, we are well aware of it. Then we are also looking at subject matter experts. Subject matter experts is something that a new subject, for example, AI. I'll just give you example. Tajikistan, our youngsters went there. They went for a kind of setting up a small team there, a cyber team, and the kind of a software which they have created is talk of the town in Tajikistan. It's being talked about their defense minister also. So the talent which is there in India may look very small to us, but when they go all out, they understand the local requirement, they can actually do a lot. And military diplomacy as a whole is actually playing a very important role. And the way I have given you out, we also know that we are the second largest army and fourth powerful army. So this itself aligns in the thought process of a Viksit Bharat 2047. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. With reference to your question, this gentleman from Doordarshan, I am not for a moment suggesting that you need to obsess with China. But there is no harm at looking what they are doing. If you see, they have put down two clear-cut timelines in their plans for modernization. PLA modernization by 2027, PLA world-class military by 2049. In that sense, if you hear the initiatives that the chief has just covered, I think we would be moving much faster because our approach is much more comprehensive in that sense. Yes, please, next round.
Thank you, General Saha. My name is Nalin Kohli. I represent a MSME association. Sir, I have two very quick questions, one for the chief and one for Dr. Kamat. So for the chief, there's a fairly good ecosystem for MSMEs and startups who are working in the defense area. Many of us don't take money under any program like IDEX or TDF, but we are working in a defense domain. And what we expect is the handholding that you give, particularly innovation develops when we talk to the actual user, who would be maybe a lieutenant colonel or a major, who actually knows that issue much better. So, sir, this, if it can be facilitated. For Dr. Kamat, sir, we have talked to DRDO, your officials. Many times the technology transfer, the threshold, that money that you are asking is so high that many MSMEs and startups who are interested are not able to do it. So we would request that get on to a reasonable royalty model if there is a startup or a MSME who wants to work with DRDO. And that could be a better thing because they don't have money upfront to spend there.
Thank you, Mr. Nalin. Yes. Yeah, Narang, please.
So my first question is to Secretary R&D. Sir, our major problem is the quantification of indigenous content based on materials, software, and components as per the new policy. So how do we address the standard formulation, identification of these based on scientific identification of these and certification? That's point one. And second is about spiral development and project closures. And this question is to both Chief also. How do DRDO and the services can work together to reduce the project closures or inactions or delays? Thank you.
Thank you, Narang. There's a lady there at the, yes, please.
This is Parvinder Sandhu. I am from the UNI. My question is to the Chief of Staff, Army Staff. Sir, in your address today, you called Ukraine warfare a living laboratory. So my question to you is specifically for the Indian Army, what tactical and technological lessons have been imbibed from that warfare? And also the other part of the question is, all the chiefs have been talking about the lessons that have been learned from Op Sindoor 1.0, and they have, continuously talked about implementing the same. So one lesson from that has been imbibed, and of course from the Ukraine war also. Thank you.
Sandhu, yeah, next please. Yeah, Pranay.
Pranay from Takshashila Institution, Bengaluru. Dr. Kamat, I just wanted to ask you about, you mentioned opening up of IP to private players is happening. Could you please detail that specifically on the semiconductor side? For example, GATEC, is it opening up its process design kits for, let's say, Indian startups who want to make something on gallium nitride, etc.? Thank you.
Okay, I think this time we'll request the chief to go first. The first one was on hand-holding and facilitation from Mr. Naren Kohli, and then was...
As far as MSME is concerned, it is a cause of concern and cause of interest to us. We feel that growth of MSME will help the military as well as the large-scale industries. So it is protected also under the DAP, as you are aware, that a particular amount, if it is below than that, then the MSME are the first ones who have to be given, or a particular percentage has to be given. When it comes to the how the performance has been, I must say that it's also been a cause of concern, because the commitment has been given, but because of the local conditions, lack of capital, and so on and so forth, it's not been 100% satisfaction. But the satisfaction level has been high. Now, after this triple C, what has happened, and we have discussed amongst ourselves and also with the polity, we will be sending the military representatives, especially from the central headquarters, to go to MSMEs, kind of advise them and kind of educate them what is the requirement, what is the capital, which will allow them to kind of participate in the military contracts which are there. The second issue which has been said about the hand holding, when you talk about the innovation which have been carried out or the trials which have been carried out. What happens when we look at the local level? For him, it's okay. I have been visiting so many exhibitions. Everybody says, sir, I made this, I made this. But suddenly my director, ADG, ADB comes to me, sir, this has also been made by Bell, sir, this has also been made by so-and-so, this has also been made by... So when you look at in isolation, you have actually achieved something big. But when you look at India as an ecosystem, this also been developed by 3-4, and we have to provide them a playing field. That is where the constraints come. But the hand holding is something which is our responsibility. And given the funds which are allocated to us and given the funds which are available to the DRDO, we both are committed to kind of do the hand holding, for which the startups and the MSMEs take a priority. The second issue is project delay, how you handle. Of course, we both will answer that later. As far as the living lab is concerned, what has been talked about, I can say that tactical and technological lessons both combined together. What is coming out, the battle of narratives is actually making you win the war. And if the battle of narrative is, let's say, if the Western world and Russia is getting isolated, it does not mean that Russia is not winning war or Ukraine is not winning war. So you are not always getting the correct picture. Therefore, battle of narrative or the cyber war is something which is important, which we need to look into. The second is duration of war, which I have said earlier also. It is 4 days, 4 months, or 4 years, we don't know. So what does it involve? It involves basically that Atmanirbharta and capability to produce, and also kind of a capability to export is something important. And what we have realized majorly, that earlier we used to say, okay, just in time, just in place, and only optimize resource. Gone are those days. We must have surplus. Even if it leads to wastage, I'm not saying it should get wastage. Therefore, whatever resource can be of dual use, that is something which should be given primary importance. That I have been talking about Google approach and Apple approach is whatever is available on the courts, immediately pick up and use it for the military purpose. Because then I know I can sustain it for a longer period and the market is ready to give it. As far as the drone operation is concerned, it's come out very clearly. It is a operational enhancer, not a match winner or a war winner. So that has come out. And of course, the combined teams, which we talked about, Rudra has already been made, others been made. This also been looked from that point of view. Sindoor 1.0, what has come out, the major lesson is multi-domain operations and whole of nation approach. It is not the three subsets which will fight the battle together. It is the whole of nation which will fight the battle together. Rest all it is in a kind of a classified domain, but all the agencies of various kinds, whether it is civil agency or intelligence agencies or us and the diaspora, everybody fought this battle together. I can just say that. Thank you.
Yeah, so let me start with the money for the TOT. See, we have a formula which has been decided by our finance that 20% of now it's reduced to 5% of the project cost for that development of that technology. That is charged as the TOT fee, initial fee. And now we have scrapped the royalty also, because eventually that product is sold to our military. So unless it's a dual use technology which can be used for civilian applications, there is no royalty. We have also added a mechanism where the company can pay for the TOT only, they have to initially pay only 10% of the TOT cost, and the rest can be paid only when they get an order. So we have simplified our norms to make it easier for the industry. When it comes to quantification of the indigenous content, it is not a very easy task. Unless the company is very honest and gives you a clear bill of materials, this is very contentious. So all these schemes like buy IDDM and all these other things, make IDDM, all these suffer from, some companies are honest, some companies give wrong numbers. I don't know what is the correct solution, but it has to be curbed, because this then results in distortion of the intent of the government. When it comes to spiral development, it's a very good question, because anybody who has done design and development will know that you can reach 90% relatively quickly. The final 10% of the QR is challenging to meet, and that is where most of the delays happen. So if you have a mechanism of, in the DAC, I don't blame the services, because today's mechanism doesn't allow them to start the procurement until the entire PSQR is met. But we need a mechanism where 20% of their total needs are acquired when the QR, 80 or 90% of the QR summit. So then the cash flow for the industry which is working on that system will also start. He can then sustain his development. This reform is a must if we have to get more systems inducted. Then with respect to opening of our IPs, these IPs are free now. You can take the IPs. If the IP belongs to the laboratory SSPL, because most of the IP in GETEC is from SSPL. If the IP belongs to SSPL, it is free. But if the IP belongs to GETEC, because it is a society, it has to earn its own money, it will not be free. Because GETEC has to earn its own money. So if that IP has been generated by GETEC, they will charge for it.
Thank you very much, both the Army Chief and Dr. Kamat, for, I think, you will all agree with me, a very impactful talk by both the eminent leaders, and I think a very free, frank, and forthright question and answers that we've had. So I would request you all to please join me in a round of applause and get a standing ovation for the two speakers.